Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew with James Kirkland.
Powerful and provocative, prophetic and practical,
Have you ever found yourself?
Are you dating for that person?
informative and
I feel
inspirational.
every bit of it. Like, I'm not trying to waste my
How you gonna do better if you don't know what better looks like? I do.
Intellectual stew.
Come on, let's talk about it with me, the mind massager.
Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew with James Kirkland. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew.
Get everything together. Come on and share this.
Intellectual stew with James Kirkland. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew.
Ah,
Intellectual stew with James Kirkland. Intellectual stew. Intellectual stew.
it is. All right, y'all share this thread. Let's get ready to get this conversation started in a minute. Real talk. I told y'all how I'm going to start doing this, so hope I don't offend anyone. But I'm going to do who I am. I just turned this music off. All right, that's good. What's up? What it do? Time for another episode of the Intellectual Stew with yours truly, James Kirkland. You can't hear me? Can y'all hear me? Somebody say, you probably know you couldn't hear me with the music being loud. But can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Y'all let me know if you can hear me or not. And we're going to get this conversation started in just a minute. Good evening, Emmanuel. What's going on? Okay, Kiki. So what y'all are telling me is don't talk while my music is playing, or at least turn my music down or something along those lines. Got it. I got it. I can learn. I learn fast. So what's up? How are y'all doing? How was your weekend? It is hot. I'm upset. I had to spend the night in Houston last night. Because the flight I was on got canceled. So I was supposed to make it back to Atlanta last night at 11 o'clock, 11:30. But I didn't get back to about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So I'm on fumes. But we couldn't have a show last night. So I wanted to make sure that we had a show on tonight, and I see Tyler, I see Kiki, I see Emmanuel, I see. I appreciate you all for tapping in, and it's going to be a few more people tap in before the night's over. I have a couple of guests that will be joining me later. If y'all hang out, yeah, they'll be joining us later. So I'm gonna keep this conversation kind of diverse. I told you all last week that last few weeks that we've somewhat changed our focus. We're focusing now on mental health. Because that is in this mental health month. Last month was men's mental health month. And this month is just overall mental health month. And I think every month needs to be mental health month. I've been doing a little more research as it relates to mental health and how mental asylums closed and how they were the degraded conditions and all those things. And I'm a little more concerned. I mean, we'll have a little more passion for that now. And so we're going to be dealing with those. And because I am who I am a preacher. I've been preaching for like 30 years, right? That's all I know. So I've decided to be a little bit more true to my calling. And so sometimes what we'll do is when we do our little talks, the first half of our talk might be a little biblical lesson, but we'll extract some practical principles that are portable. So whether you believe, whatever you believe, is still practical enough and applicable enough, hopefully, that we can acquiesce and kind of add it to our lives, and use it accordingly. So what we're doing this week is we're dealing with unhappy triggers. Y'all hear about people talking about having a trigger finger. They're happy, happy with that trigger. They like to shoot and all those things. Well, some people have unhappy triggers. They have very unhappy triggers, certain things in their past or certain things in mental health. Let me tell you what a trigger is. In mental health, a trigger is a stimulus that can cause a person to experience an intense negative emotion or an emotional reaction that can significantly affect their state. And so what we've been doing the past several weeks is we've been discussing how we might have developed some of these triggers over time, because what we've been discussing, for those that have been following us, we've been discussing the different attachment styles. If you followed me, the different attachment styles are the secure attachment style, the anxiety attachment style, I think the ambivalent attachment style. Do the research when you get a chance. And also the ambivalent anxiety, the anxious ambivalent, and then the avoidant, and then the mixed emotion. All those have they carry their own characteristics, but what they point to how we in our infancy stage, how we relate to our parents and we relate to our caregivers, are a direct result of how we relate to people as we grow older in life, right? So if we how we develop as children innately and how they influence us as we grow older. If we had any other attachment style other than secure, then we were susceptible to some type of trauma, and that's what we're talking about tonight. And we're talking about unhappy triggers, but we're going back into childhood trauma, and it's not all trauma is not like the same trauma. Trauma is not just emotional abuse. It's not just sexual abuse. It's not just mental abuse. It's not just verbal abuse. Trauma is very relative, very specific, and it's very unique. And the young lady I'm going to bring on a little bit later on tonight, when we hear her story, you'll be like, oh, wow. But the thing is, when you hear her story, so many people can relate to what she's saying. And I can't wait to get her in a little bit later. I want to go ahead, like I said, and get through this, what I'm going to do first. So let's talk a little bit more about childhood trauma. Childhood trauma is a frightening, dangerous, or violent event that happens to a child between the ages of 0 and 18 that threatens their life, their safety. It can also be caused by non-violent events such as the death of a loved one, bullying, or a parent always shouting at their children. Childhood trauma can have lasting mental, I'm getting through these little notes, mental and physical effects, including attention and academic difficulties. Let me see what else. Nightmares, difficulties sleeping and eating,
physical symptoms such as aches and pains, relationship struggles such as difficulty trusting, being defensive, or having difficulty communicating. All these things. What's going on, Anthony? All these things, if a child experiences these traumatic situations as children, they don't just fall off as they get older. You know, these things become innate. They become a part of their psyche, become a part of their personalities. And as they get older, that's how they relate to everyone that they come into contact with. So if we had any other attachment style other than secure, then we probably need to get some work, do some work mentally, or, you know, or do some therapy or something to try to get those things, try to correct those behavior patterns. Now, understand a lot. Oh yeah, hold on. Before I go into this next part of it, I'm going to do a little contest tonight, and I'm going to give away a book. Okay. So I'm going to do a word scramble. So this is, so everybody that's coming in, this is the theme for tonight. The theme is family. So I'm going to put words on the screen, and they're going to be scrambled. Okay. And as the words are scrambled, whoever gets the most right by the end of the night, I'll have to go back and check it later on. And I'll be taking a picture of the screen with my phone to see how the answers came in first. So, but as I put these up throughout the night, you know, and once you all guess those, then like I said, whoever gets the most, then I'll give a copy of my book away. Stuck on the couch. I'll give a copy of that away tonight. So I'm gonna do that a little bit later now. Not right now. I want to get some more people in first, but that's gonna be the theme for tonight. The theme is going to be family. Okay. The theme is going to be family. So I said I wanted to look at a biblical narrative tonight, and it deals with a young man who would have qualified as being one who was dealing with severe mental issues. Depending on which way you look at it, I mean, which version you look at, you can look at Matthew's version, or you can look at Mark's version, Matthew chapter 17, beginning at verse 14, or you can look at it in Mark chapter 9. But in that text, we're introduced to a young boy. And notice I said boy. I didn't say young man. I said young boy. I think sometimes we make our children grow up too soon. We calling them, that's my man. No, that ain't no man. That's a boy. Let that boy be a boy as long as he is. So when he grows up, you know, then he'll receive the characteristics and the mentality that goes along with that as well. But this young boy, that's another thing. I think when we start with children, we make them grow up too soon because we expose them to too much too soon, things that they weren't ready for, things that you think just because you can handle it, that they're supposed to be able to handle it too. And I think that's a very unfair position to put our children in. And little do we know when we do that, because their mental capacities, I mean, their mental psyches don't have the capacity to handle what we're exposing them to. In essence, what we end up doing oftentimes is blowing their minds. Now, I'm saying that in a figurative and a literal sense. But we need to be careful. But here this young boy, and in the text, Mark chapter 9, the father comes and he brings his son. He brings his son to the disciples, because in this instance, this boy, interestingly, like I said, he's dealing with severe mental problems. And I'm going to give you the characteristics of what he was dealing with. I want to pull this scripture up for myself. So as I read through this, but all right, here it is. Let me read it. In Mark chapter 9, verse 17, it says, and one of the multitude answered and said, verse 17, Master, I have brought unto thee, talking to Jesus, unto thee my son, which hath a dumb spirit. That's what he says. He says, I have a son. I've brought him. Well, first of all, he had brought him to the disciples when Jesus was on the Mount of Transfiguration. If you go back and read that a little bit further, Jesus was on the Mount of Transfiguration with his inner circle, comes down. There's a commotion in the city. The scribes and Pharisees, the scribes are questioning the disciples. They're trying to figure things out. Jesus walks up. Then all of a sudden the man comes to Jesus, says, Master, I brought my son to thee, who has a dumb spirit. That's what he said. He said he has a dumb spirit. He transitions, the man does, from talking about his son to talking about the spirit that was controlling his son. And I'm going somewhere. If you stick around with me just a little while longer, I promise you I'm going to make sense in a minute. He says that because first he said, I brought my son, but he knew what was controlling his son wasn't really his son. Does that make sense? He said, because look what verse number 18, he said, and wheresoever he taketh him, he teareth him, and he foameth and gnasheth his teeth, and pineth away. And I spake to thy disciples, and that they should cast him out, and they could not. Here's the issue. In the text, the boy represents a problem. The man represents the world, and the disciples represents the church. And in the text, the world, the man, brings the church, the disciples, a problem, the boy, but the church couldn't help. The church in this instance, this man was powerless. They came looking for help. They came looking for a solution. Well, he came looking for help. He came looking for a solution. He had gotten tired of seeing his son in that state. He had seen everything else that the disciples and Jesus was doing, and he was at his wit's end, hoping that something would change, because he knew that wasn't his son. And so many of us in the same position with our children. Or we know somebody like that mentally that's going through something. You're like, that really ain't the person I knew, or that's not really the person that I know. It has to be something else. And that's where compassion kicks in, right? See, when you look at, that I'm reading you Mark's version of the text, but when you look at Matthew's version of it, when the man brings his son, he says, I'm bringing you my son, and he's a lunatic. Lunatic comes from the root word lunar. Lunar comes from the moon. So what they believed in that day, that is, if you slept under the moon, that you would end up having mental problems. So when Jesus comes down and Jesus sees what's going on, because he's recognized that his disciples have proven to be powerless in this instance, what Jesus says, hold on, Jesus first, he isolates the issue. He says to the disciples, he answers them and said, O faithless generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you? Bring him to me. In other words, what Jesus does is Jesus isolates the issue. And I think that's the problem with a lot of us in society. We want to be jacks of all trades and really aren't masters of none. And therefore, we're ineffective in areas that we could be effective with if we just did. Okay. And another thing, I think really Jesus just kind of wanted to see it for himself. So what? So watch this. So he could do a proper assessment. He had heard what everybody else said. He heard what the Father said. He heard what the disciples said. He had seen all, but Jesus needed to see it for himself. So he came down and he said, bring me the boy. And in that moment, they brought him the boy. And when he did it, Jesus does a proper assessment. Verse 20 says, and they brought him unto him. And when he saw him, straightway the spirit tear him, and he fell on the ground and wallowing in foam. Now, let's get a clear understanding. The disciples had been effective in the past when it came to casting out demons. This wasn't the first time they had cast out demons. They had been very effective because Jesus gave the same power that he had. He gave it to them. So they had been very effective in the past. But for some reason, when they came upon this spirit or this demon, they weren't effective. Why was that? Why do y'all think that was? What do you think? And we know the answer is later on, this kind only cometh forth by fast. But what was it about this particular spirit that made them ineffective, because evidently something was off, because their faith had failed in that moment, and then they were unable to be effective. That's a bad spot to be in, especially when you talk about doing kingdom work. But they said but now Matthew Henry, and you read some of the other theologians, they said that what happened in this moment is that when the disciples got ready to cast this spirit out, same thing that the boy is doing, showing out. Talking about they brought him to him, and when here it is, yes, and verse number 20, and they brought him unto him, and when he saw him, straightway the spirit tear him and fell on the ground. He started showing out, started acting a fool. And so some believe that when he started showing out like that, that the disciples got a little afraid, and their faith began to fail, and they started to give up. Has your child ever like shown out on you in public, or they started having certain types of fits? And it's not only about children, because like I said, the things that we do in adulthood are directly connected to what we did as children. And if we didn't learn how to manage our emotions, or weren't taught to manage our emotions as children, then how are we expected to manage our emotions as adults? And in that situation, they were the adults, but when they saw the boy start falling out, when they saw the boy, the spirit started tearing him up. The man had already recognized that the boy was being controlled by a dumb spirit, lunatic. And so he went to somebody he thought had the power to change it, and all of a sudden their faith began to fail. But when he runs to Jesus, Jesus isolates the issue. They bring him to Jesus. Jesus assesses the boy, does a mental assessment. He says, bring him to me. I want to see it for myself. The spirit starts tearing him. He falls on the ground, starts wallowing and starts foaming at the mouth. And then Jesus asks the father a question, because he starts doing an interrogation. He says, how long is it ago since this came unto him? In other words, how long has he been in this situation? How long has he been doing this? In other words, Jesus was doing a proper assessment. Jesus wanted to understand what exactly it was he was dealing with. See, that's the problem with us. We give up on people before we even know what it was we were dealing with, because we don't have compassion. And when you talk about people who are, that's why it breaks my heart. You see some of these videos where these police officers that aren't equipped to deal with the mentally ill, and they walk up and they come up on this scene, and this person is mentally ill, and all of a sudden then this person has a fit or whatever. Then all of a sudden they're tased or they're shot because somebody that didn't understand them tried to control them. And what I've come to discover is that in these instances, because what we don't understand, we are often afraid of. And what we're afraid of, we try to kick it, we try to kill it, or we try to cage it. Why? Because we can't control it. I'm going to say it one more time. The things that we don't understand, we try to kick, kill, or cage when we can't control, because we don't understand it. Same thing we do sometimes when raising children. I tried my best with my children to let them choose. And then whatever they chose, I cultivated. And the reason I did that was because I felt like I was creative enough to control the outcome. And and honestly, I was cool with whatever the outcome was, as long as I put the right things inside. As long as we put the right things inside of them. Does that make sense? Yeah. So many people are like afraid of the unknown. And because they're afraid of the unknown, they try to control the outcome. And in this text, Jesus, although he was omniscient in his humanity, he inquired. He did the research. He said, how long has this boy been in this situation? How long How long has he been in this case? How long has he been trying to burn himself up or drown himself? How long has he been in this situation? Because he needed to know. He wanted to know if he was going to effectively do something to change that boy's situation. Here it is. Most of the time, we're not ready to change, or we're not equipped to change. Yeah. And you don't know what a person had to deal with in their childhood. You don't know, and you don't know what kind of work they've done. You don't know any of those things. So that's where compassion has to kick in. Now, I've had the fortune of meeting some mothers of autistic children, and they do a wonderful job of getting their children the resources they need. I mean, they've done the research, to make sure they get all of the education they need, to get the educational advantages they need, the things that to bridge the gap in the classrooms and all those types of things. I've met some people who, because what they're doing is they're putting their children in a position that, although they might have some deficiencies, although they might have some mental issues or whatever else is going on, they're going to do whatever's necessary to strengthen those situations, to put those children in a better situation. And because what they're doing is they're gaining a better understanding of what they're dealing with, so that they can put their children in a position so that they can be successful in the future. So when Jesus asked him, he said, how long has he been like that? Jesus said, the man said, he's been like that as a child, ever since he's been a child. Sometimes it cast him in the fire, sometimes in the water, because its ultimate goal is to destroy him. But Lord, if you can do anything, please have compassion on us and help us. That's a powerful part of that text right there. Because this man has watch this. This man has exhausted all of his human ingenuity. He's exhausted all of his humanistic know-how. He's put it all on the line, because everybody else that he's gone to couldn't help his child. He's prayed for his child. He's put him in the best situations. He's tried to put him on medication. He's done everything that he could to try to put his child in a better situation. And then his last resort was to bring him to the church, to bring him to the disciples. He brought him this issue. And when he brought it, they were powerless. And then all of a sudden, here comes the power source. And he takes him to Jesus and he says, Lord, I've tried everything else. This spirit is controlling my son. This spirit has control of my son. And Lord, if you can do anything, please help him. And not only please help him, but please help us. Jesus said unto him, if you can believe, all things are possible to him that believe. Isn't that good news? So even with the childhood trauma that we might have faced, right, that causes us to feel triggered, and I gave you a good definition of triggered earlier in the broadcast. I said in mental health, a trigger is a stimulus that can cause a person to experience intense negative emotion or an emotional reaction that can significantly affect their state. So when certain things cause us to be triggered, if we do the work, if we seek counseling, if we do the mental exercises, if we are really transparent, if we're really honest with the man or the woman in the mirror and do the work and really believe, then we can change our situation. I told you before, the attachment styles that we have developed over the years, all of those attachment styles, guess what? They can change. You can be ambivalent and anxiety. You might not trust anyone. You might not trust anyone because you were abandoned as a child, or you had someone who wasn't consistent in their treatment of you as a child, and because they weren't consistent, you don't know how to take them. And you didn't know how to take them. You didn't know if they were going to be yelling when they came home. You didn't know if they were going to meet you with a hug when you came home. You didn't know. So that followed you all of your life. And when you got older and you got in your own relationships and you start relating with other people, you didn't trust them. You didn't know if they were going to change on you tomorrow, or they're going to change on you the next day. You and some of us, you know I'm telling the truth. But if you can believe, if you do the work, if you seek therapy, if you do what's necessary to work towards positive mental health, then your situation can change. In verse 24, the man says, and straightway the father of the child cried out and said with tears in his eyes, Lord, I believe, but can you help my unbelief? That's good news. He said, I believe, but it's my son I'm concerned about, because he's the one that's dealing with this mental issue. And so many of us are advocating for someone else. And guess what? Some of us need to be advocating for ourselves. And we've got to believe that things can change even in our own life. So the same issue that the disciples had a problem with, Jesus has isolated, has done an interrogation about, and now Jesus begins to improve the issue. When Jesus saw the people coming and running together, he rebuked the foul spirit, saying unto him, thou deaf and dumb spirit, I charge thee, come out of him and enter no more into him. And the spirit cried out, because it tried to show out one more time, because it don't never want to act right the first time. It's always going to fight back. Every time it's going to fight back because it doesn't want to go. It's taken up residency. It's lived there so long. It's gotten comfortable. Listen, every negative emotion needs a body. Y'all can say amen. If you, yeah. Every negative emotion needs a body. If a negative emotion doesn't have a body, how is it going to act itself out? How is it going to manifest itself? So a negative emotion is looking for something to attach itself to. The problem is sometimes it attaches itself to us. And sometimes through transgenerational trauma, we perpetuate that on other people by the way we treat them. But those things can change. Jesus said, thou deaf and dumb spirit, come out of him, and in him no more. The spirit cried, rent him sore, came out, and he was as one dead, insomuch that the people around him thought he was dead. How many times have you pronounced a benediction on somebody when they wasn't even dead yet? Certain things you think need some things you think are dead, they just need a resuscitation. And then if it's really that dead, all it needs is a resurrection. And the resurrection comes in verse 27 when Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up. And when Jesus grabbed him and picked him up, the boy rose. He got up. And that's the powerful part about this whole text, is that after everything happened, because all of us have seen somebody act out. All of us have seen someone go through a mental situation, and you're wondering, you think the child is just bad. No, don't leave him like that. It's a lot of things going on. You don't know how that child is treated at home. Someone told me a story, and I think I've told the story on here before. About a young man. He was in school, and that young man was like really acting out. I think I told it on here. He was really, really acting out, and he was having a bad day. And they started asking, they took him out of class, and I think a counselor or somebody, they went in and talked to the young man, and they were trying to figure out why he was acting out the way he was acting out. And it turned out that morning, the mama had basically told the boy she wished he was dead, or wish she had never had him. Do we think children are just sponges and they're supposed to be able to absorb everything we put on them? Does that even make sense? That you get so upset and so unconscious that you would say something to your own child that's demoralizing, that's deteriorating, that would break them down by telling them that you wish that they didn't make it, you wish that they were dead, and then you expect that child to go. Hey, what's going on, Charlotte? You expect that child to go to school with that on his mind? How does that work? Because you can go to work and your boss can make you mad, and you come home and you don't want to talk to nobody. But you're that child's parent. And most of us that follow me, I think the children are a little bit older, but you're that child's parent, and you put all that pressure, that mental pressure on the child. I was guilty of that. I was guilty of that in my early stages of parenting. I have learned. I've had to go back and forgive my parents for some stuff that I thought they did me wrong on, because I saw the mistakes that I've made in parenting. And most times, you don't see the mistakes until after you made them, right? I mean, that's typically how that works. But some of the things that I would do with my children, like for instance, with my oldest son, he's 25 now, but he really wasn't a morning person, and so if I go in there and wake him up at 7, it just really didn't, it didn't resonate with him like that. He'll be dragging and moving around. So rather than yell at him and wake him up, hollering and making him, behind him like I'm a slave driver or something, I just start doing, I put the light on him, light can do what I can't do. I turn the light on at 6:45, and at 6:45, the light would start waking him up, So by 7, he had done everything that he needed to do to get ready to go forward. So, to get ready to go on with his day. In fact, I didn't even have to go back in there at 7 o'clock because the light had out. So my point is, I became more creative in my parenting style. I started to evolve because I understood that parenting was on the job training. Sometimes we get it right. Sometimes we get it wrong. But the thing is to be consistent with our children, right? So that we can build them, because we don't understand that the seeds that we plant today, they don't come up today. They don't come up tomorrow. They don't come up next week, but sometimes they don't come up for 4 or 5 years. I mean, study a bamboo tree. You don't see any evidence of growth for the first 5 years. You might have thought that the seed was no good because you didn't see any evidence. But the things that you put inside of your children, believe me, they are coming back. Cuss around them all the time and go to school with them and see what they're doing at school. Because they do what we expose them to. Because I tell you all the time, we are the effects of what we have been exposed to and what we have embraced over the years. And that's what we are. So that's why we have to be careful what we expose our children to. So talking about this whole mental health thing, this father in the text, he brought his son to Jesus. He made sure he got his son in the right position to get what he needed. He got him in the right position to get him what he needed. If you have someone in your life that is dealing with, if it's you, get yourself in the position to get whatever it is that you need so that you can live a good, healthy mental life, right? This mental health thing is, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Can you lose your mind? Dr. Evans, he's going to be on with us in a few minutes. He let us know, now you probably can't lose your mind, but things can happen that might cause you to have a psychotic break. Things can happen. The pressures of life, they are real. They are real, and sometimes they will break you down. They will break you down. So you have to be very, very careful and cognizant to make sure that you practice things that will make sure that will enable you to practice a healthy mental health lifestyle. So that's what we are working on, and that's what we are moving towards. I have a guest that's going to be coming on in a few minutes. Hopefully she'll come on in the back room in just a moment so we can get her in, because I want to hear her story as well. So let me listen, I told you all earlier, let me go ahead and get the game started now since we got some people in here. All right, I'm giving away a copy of my book. It's called Stuck on the Couch. I'm giving away a copy, but you got to play the game for the rest of the night, okay? So the theme for tonight is, let me put it up again. I had it up earlier. It's family. Y'all want to play with me? Stick around with me. Let's play the game with me, okay? Family, okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some words on the screen that you have to scramble and make the word with the words. The letters are scrambled, and you just have to guess the word. Now I'm going to take a picture of the screen. Whoever gets the most right wins. Okay. So the theme is family. The theme is family. The theme is family. So here we go. You have to stop telling people what I want to do. Okay, cool. Hold on. Let me get the first one. The first one is going to be, here it is. All right. Boom. All right. That's the first one. That's the first one. So I'm going to take a picture of the screen. Y'all guess the word. Whoever guesses the most, I'm going to give you a copy of my book tonight. And our guest is going to be coming on here, hopefully just in a moment. If not, I'm going to bring Dr. Evans in and we're going to see what he has to say to us, give us some wisdom tonight. But there the first word is. I'm going to leave that up until somebody guesses it. First person who guesses it, that's who gets it. I know a lot of people don't know we're on because it's Tuesday night. I forgot. Got a winner. Got a winner. Got a winner. Got a winner. Miss Conjua Hilliard. Got a winner. Let me take a picture of the screen. All right. First one. She got the first one. She got the first one. So let me take it out. All right. Here comes the second one. The theme again is family. We're dealing with family. And this is the second one. She got the first one already. All right. Now our guest is coming in now. Great. All right. So this is the second one here. Let's go. The theme is family. I see our guest in the back. I'll be right with you, ma'am. Let me get one more person to get to see who gets this one right. The theme is family. And y'all share this because I want y'all to hear this next portion of what we're going to talk about. The theme is family. Y'all guess the word? Guess the word. Guess the word. If you can't get it, then I have to come back to it in a few minutes. All right, we got our guest. All right, cool. Anybody gonna get it? Anybody got it? Anybody got it? There it is. Family. All right, Conjua said, I'm gonna win this book tonight. All right, cool. Miss Milton, she beat you. I'm sorry, about a little bit. Hold on. Let me take a picture of it so y'all can see it so y'all know I ain't lying. Hold on. Well, I'm not gonna lie anyway, but all right. Conjua got it. Tiffany got it. Miss Milton got it, but Conjua, I might give 2 books away tonight, but we'll see. All right, so we're going to start this. I got my guest. Let me go ahead and get her in here because we're talking about unhealthy triggers. And we're talking about childhood trauma. Now, I want you all to understand as I bring her in, trauma is relative. I said earlier that sometimes trauma would be mental abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, all those things. But trauma is relative. This is what made me invite her in. And Lolita, Miss May, I'm coming to you in 1 second. Let me read your post. When I put a post up last week, I said something about will you share your childhood traumas? She said her trauma was ADHD. As a girl back then, ADHD was a white boy condition. And the crippling anxiety and depression that came with it. She said, I was hyperplexic, meaning I was reading fluently at 2 years old before I even understood what the words meant. I was teaching my classmates to read by 1st grade. By 5th grade, I was reading at a 10th grade level. Thing is, I would make bad grades throughout school because I would miss homework assignments, though I would ace the test. Most of my whoopings came from those issues. But how do you explain to a teacher or a parent that your brain is fighting you? There was no explanation that wouldn't be taken as an excuse. That intrigued me. And I asked her if she would join us on the show to talk about this a little bit more. So I'm getting ready to bring her on the stage. And then if you would share this, because when she put her post on my page, someone said her daughter was going through the same thing. So this lets you know these things are real. Okay. So let me bring her in. I'm probably saying her name wrong. So let me get her name right. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
I'm well. How are you? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Tell me how to say your name right, please.
You said it right, Lolita.
Lolita. Okay, cool, cool, cool.
Hmm.
All right. You remember last week when I put that post out about the childhood trauma? It was one gentleman. He was like, "Man, you're asking some very personal questions." And then
Hmm.
somebody said, maybe if you say something or it'll make you feel better, And you came, and I'm thinking trauma, I'm thinking getting touched, the nasty uncle, or the nasty auntie, I'm thinking that kind of trauma, right? But then you hit us with that, the ADHD. Um, and I asked you and I appreciate you for coming on, but tell us a little bit, tell us who you are, where you're from, and then we'll get into your story just a little bit in a moment.
Um, well, I am from Pine Bluff. I am a teacher.
Okay.
That's the irony, and I'm a musician. And so, yeah, that's the long and short.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about your childhood a little bit. Can you describe your childhood and some of the behaviors or experiences that, in retrospect, indicated ADHD? I know you told us a little bit about it in the post, but tell us a little bit.
Hmm. Well, one of the things, the traits with ADHD include, but not limited to, um, trouble focusing, impulsive actions, object permanence issues, things like that. So um, I would struggle with keeping up with things,
Mm,
staying organized, um, getting things done. Uh, One of the things that I would, you know, struggle with, especially say if I was talking about school, for example,
mm-hmm,
is, for example, we would have math. You know how they would have math drills, so they have like 20, what felt like 70 of the same type of problems
mm-hmm.
that you have to do for homework, and things like that. It was just, it's not that you don't want to do the work, it's that your brain just was shut down. It was like
Really?
all you could do is just look at the work, and it's like, okay, um I need to do such and such. Okay, I need to do this. All right. So, and so I learned, I didn't know until I was much older that I realized there's a difference between, you're like, not, I don't feel like doing this, so I'm just not going to do it, as opposed to, I need to do this. I really want to get this done. But your brain is like, nope, we're not doing it, you know?
Wow.
Or it'd be like, okay, I'm going to do it, but let me do this first. So, procrastination and things like that. And, time blindness, which is another trait where you struggle with time management. So you usually have less time than you think you have, and things like that. Which, in my case, say with school, resulted in me. Okay, I meant to do this assignment, but then the day comes, I didn't get it. I don't have as much time to do it as I thought I did,
Mm.
and so I'm trying to get stuff done at the last minute, and that would just always blow up in my face. Um,
Wow.
And so it's just like, I would get in trouble. But then after a while, it would result to me get to the point where I would lie, because it was just like, okay, did you do such and such? Uh huh, sure did. And so maybe if I'll get them off my back long enough to get it done before they realize that I hadn't done it. Yeah, did
Wow.
that that didn't end well.
Wow.
Um, One particular instance that I was supposed to do an assignment, right? And I did not do the assignment. So what I figured I was going to do was, okay, I'm going to try to pass off another assignment to make it look like I did the wrong assignment, and so I wouldn't maybe I'll get a chance to finish this assignment. Well, it would have worked if I if I had remembered to change the dates. So that got me in trouble. Back in those days, you would get a whipping from the teacher. So
Now, what grade were you in during this time? What grade were you
I
in?
was in the 5th grade.
In the 5th grade. Now,
Mm-hmm.
but you know what? I can relate to your story because in the 5th grade, I was reading on the 10th grade level. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because we were in the 5th grade, we were in a 6th grade classroom. It was 5 of us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we were in the same 6th grade classroom for 2 years in a row. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but I, and I can relate to a lot of that, as far as the homework and the making, because you said you could read fluently, you could comprehend, but you would make bad grades. I mean, I had to go to summer school one time in high school, you know what I'm saying? And that was the craziest thing in the world. Wow, that makes so how did your peers, excuse me, well, how did you rationalize? Was this all the way through middle school, high school?
All through school. And my peers just thought something was wrong with me. They was like, dude, why don't you just do your homework? Why is that so hard? And I mean, what do you tell them? Because I mean, I would, you can get the assignment and you actually in class do just fine. It was just the hard part was just doing it at home. And I would just, um I just couldn't keep the focus. I mean, just even, but that it wasn't limited to homework. It was just like, say, doing dishes. It was just, the thing about it is that when you have, the thing with ADHD is you are only focused on the thing that interests you, which puts you in a really bad position. Because how do you tell somebody that because I'm not interested, I just really can't focus on it because I'm not interested? Then that just comes off, oh, you're just lazy. Yeah. So it was a real I would tell somebody it was the equivalent of somebody kidnapping you, then putting you in a cell and making you watch as they impersonate you and completely screw up your life.
Wow. Like that?
Yeah.
Gee. Did you get diagnosed later in life?
I didn't get diagnosed until I was 40.
What made you get diagnosed then?
Well, I had finished my master's degree and I went in to go to work. And the thing that I went to get my degree on, I was suffering terribly trying, doing the job. And most of it had to do with ADHD. Because I had been tested before, but then there was this man that was saying, you can't have ADHD, you're too smart. Okay. So there was times, I mean, I struggled a lot through life, dealing with that. And I finally did get, talk to a therapist, and she was like, yeah, you should get tested because I think you have ADHD. And so
so when you got tested, that unlocked a lot of things about your past.
it did. That was like, how did you finish high school? You shouldn't have finished high school with the level of ADHD that you have. And I'm like, well, that would have everything to do with God.
And you said you didn't get diagnosed till you were 40. I'm in my 50s. So, of course, we weren't getting diagnosed with anything like that back then either. So
right.
I wonder how many of us really went through things like that, because I mean, even in college was easier for me than high school was.
It was.
You know what I'm saying? It was so much easier. And graduate school was way easier than any of those, But I'm gonna be honest with you, Lalita. I ain't learned nothing in grad school. Because I can figure out a rubric.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? And I can look at a syllabus. And if I do enough posts for you, you know how we do our little weekly posts, and I learn what you like, that's what I'm gonna give you. You know what I'm saying? And that's what
one thing you learn how to do, you can filibuster.
Pray for me, please. Pray for me, please.
Yeah.
Hold on. Miss Milton has Kanjua. I have to make sure you're on the screen, but she got uncles before you did, and she also got sisters first as well. So I got a 2-2 tie between Miss Milton and Kanjua right now. So y'all better try to catch up. I got a little contest going on if they guess these family words, and they're gonna win a copy of my book. So that's why I got this contest going on at this particular moment. So yeah, so let's go. So receiving that diagnosis later in life that liberated you, did it make you go back and talk to your parents or your community and let them know what was going on back then, or was it, or did you let it go, or you weren't worried about how did you feel about it? Was there any resentment to an extent?
Oh, there was a mixture of emotions. I was relieved because it was like, oh, so I'm not lazy.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm not stupid. Good to know. All right, so it was because for the longest I couldn't understand what was wrong with me. It was like, why can't I just do the things that I need to do? Why is this so hard? And I thought that everybody was struggling with this. What had the same issue, but everybody was just able to push through it. And I'm like, why can't I do it? But I didn't realize that I was fighting an invisible enemy, you know.
Wow. Wow.
And once I realized and I found out what that was, I remember talking to my mom about it, and you know, she just understood because they didn't have that back then. They didn't know, which is why I didn't hold it against my parents because they didn't know. They did the best they could, and I know I drove them up the wall. Every piano teacher I had, I drove them up the wall. it was, it was just they couldn't understand because behaviorally, I mean, I didn't have any issues. It was always just getting things done, and once they once she realized that, and she was like, well, my mom was pretty supportive. She's like, you do what you have to do to take care of yourself, and everything. And I know she kind of felt she hated that she didn't know back then. And I'm just like, but one thing I had to tell, and I learned once I had kids of my own, is with parents, you do the best that you can in the situations you're in with the issues you have.
Yeah,
And
that's a very good attitude to have. Yeah, that's a very
mm,
good attitude to have. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
yeah.
cut you off.
Oh no, it's cool. And when you grow up, after a while, sometimes if you take a minute and you just kind of look through the stuff that your parents have been through their lives, that not and there's a lot that they don't tell you, but you kind of know the what you know of. You're like, how are you still functioning?
Yeah,
you know.
it's all relative. Listen, I'm gonna invite Dr. Evans into our conversation because I'm sure he's related to something that you have that you've talked about. He's a
Mm-hmm.
therapist, and we won't be on but a few minutes. And whenever you're ready, and I appreciate he might have a question for you, and if not, like I said, we'll release you whenever you're ready to go. But let
Okay.
me get Dr. Evans on in here for a hot second, and we'll keep it going. Conjua got the last one, Miss Milton. She beat you by half a second. I got another one though in a minute. All right, here we go. Dr. Evans,
Hello.
how you doing, sir?
Doing great, man.
Say hello to Miss May, Lalita May.
Hello, Miss Lalita May.
How are you?
Doing
All
good.
right. Have you been paying attention to our conversation?
Yes, yes.
Are you familiar with what she's referring to?
Yes, we have probably one of our largest percentage of ADHD or ADD, attention deficit disorder. Um, the issue with just concentration,
Okay.
and the unique thing about it, being able to go through a class, being able to earn a degree, um, it has caused us to really take a hard look at it in adults. So what we do, we start off by getting a separate evaluation by a psychologist before we start treating with medications, because those medications are category 2, so they are narcotics.
Hmm.
And if you misuse them, or if someone uses them who does not need them, you can get high off of them.
Okay.
So our psychiatrist does not prescribe any medication until after there has been an evaluation by a psychologist. And
Gotcha.
and
Gotcha.
and here's the thing, Miss May. In this area, we see mostly nurses asking for medications,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it points to long hours, to being, wanting to get a little pep. So, so I think that's the thing that has caused us to take a real hard look at it. Um, and also, it is a childhood disorder, and most of the time, unless a person is able to adopt and adjust, most of the time it is picked up in childhood, even for the ones who cannot concentrate. Now, we know the ones who get up and talk, who can't be still, but it sounds like yours was strictly with the concentration.
Mm. Yeah. Well, it was with the concentration, but then it was also with the talking, because sometimes
Okay.
my impulses happen in, I would, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
talk a lot, and sometimes I would just probably talk too much.
Yeah.
I remember hearing a lot. Shut up, Lita. A lot
Well,
growing up. So
now here's a good thing for you. You were able to get to the point where you were able to self manage it, because if for the children who cannot, we see them out of the room, not participating, because it's
mhm.
just over and over and over again, and teachers become frustrated, and they don't try to do the behavior modification.
Well, can I add to that? The students that actually are sitting still and listen, or they're not causing any issues, but they're completely checked out in here.
Yes, yes, that's that concentration piece. So,
Yeah,
it
it's
I think it's easier for us to see it for the child who's bouncing off the wall.
right.
Oh,
But
wow.
for the child who's sitting there and daydreaming, we may give teacher may give them an F and say, well, he's real quiet. He
Hmm.
never disrupt class, but he does not apply himself.
That would
Um,
be me. That
yeah,
was.
I just think that we need to do a better job at evaluating. And the good thing about it, for the average child, they get to the point where they grow out of it, where they manage.
That's
And
what I was going to ask.
yes, yes, yes.
So, do you feel like you grew out of it, Miss May?
No,
Well, when
I did not.
hers is
It,
different with the concentration part.
Okay.
well,
But
here's the
now,
thing.
Because this is the spin. Remember, because the spin is we're talking about how those unhealthy triggers affect us in adulthood, right? And she's
Hmm.
saying that she was 40 before she went and got tested. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying?
yeah.
So there's a lot of time. So what were some of the other negative, other than in the classroom? You know what I'm saying? How
Hmm.
did they affect you in your life? And what have you noticed? I mean, first I'm gonna ask her that question, Doc. But then I'm gonna ask you the same question. The children who don't outgrow it or don't grow out of it, right? What are some of the, but I want her to answer first, then I'm gonna have you answer it next. How did it affect you, and what have you seen how it affected others, Dr. Evans? You go first, Miss May.
Well, for one, I realized you don't really outgrow it. You mask it. The whole thing is to try to keep to try to basically try to be to the point where your 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 issues don't become an inconvenience to other people.
Mm.
So you still have the equivalent of about 5 or 10 TVs going on at various levels in your head at the same time. But you just kind of have to figure out how to um, write this. Okay, because like they'll tell you, okay, you need to write it down. You need to get a planner so you can remember to do stuff. Okay, well, how am I going to remember to put the stuff in the stuff? So I can remember it. It's like you have to come up with you do have to kind of manage it. You can I'll say this, you can manage it to where you don't get in as much trouble, but you still get in trouble. Like like say like when I was in college, I struggled so much with work. I would get, there was a time or two I'd have to take a class again because I failed it. Or um even as a parent, I might they have some things that they have to get done, or they need, parent uh 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 the PTA needs something done by a certain time, or have you turn in this sheet or turn in this document or something like that, and you forget. And it's something usually it's kind of important, but you need to get it done, but you forget to get it done. Even though, I mean, there's things that you make mistakes that most parents, neurotypical parents, wouldn't make. But you like, you can't you then that's a whole other struggle. just trying to, you know, be a be the parent that you need to be, but then you have, mistakes and things like that. So it it bothers you. And what sent me to that got me going to the therapist was I was getting written up at work because I couldn't get my stuff together, my lesson plans sometime or things like that. And it would basically just, like I said, get me in trouble. And I didn't know what to do. I was going into a depression. I was going into anxiety, and to have to deal with both is like worrying about everything and not caring about anything at the same time.
Oh wow.
So it took me going into that. And first they diagnosed me with depression and anxiety, but then they realized the root of that was ADHD. So, I mean, you don't really grow out of it. You just try to mask it as much as you can without, people realizing that that's an issue. And you sure enough, like if you're at work, you try not to go off and just, um, wave your ADHD flag for everybody to see, because that's a setup to get you in a whole another set of issues. So, yeah. I mean, honestly, from what I've noticed from other people who I know who also have ADHD, you don't really grow out of it. You just learn how to mask it to where most people don't realize that you have it.
Wow. Doc, you want to address that?
Yes, I mean, nothing's could be probably uh, truer than for those 40% who do not grow out of it. The 60% of adults continue to have issues, and that can be seen as impulse control, focus, um, procrastination, um, hyper focus, just focusing on one thing and kind of forgetting
Mhm.
about everything else around them.
Yeah.
Misplacing items, restlessness. Probably the most unique place I've seen it is in the criminal system.
Okay.
When guys who have poor impulse control make decisions that impact their lives and cause them to be in the correctional system. Um, so it can affect adults. Um, I think one of my own, and this may be my own issue, Miss May, is the ability to achieve major achievements in spite of the fact.
Hmm.
Because you have your master's degree, and can you imagine nurses going through nursing school, but it's still an issue for them. So I think most of us, we learn to cope and adjust and adapt in certain situations, and that is commendable. But the issues are still there.
Hmm.
And that's what Phoenicia Mosley just said. She's a therapist in Little Rock as well. She says some clients learn how to use the ADD symptoms to their advantage in work and life.
Yeah.
She said
Yeah.
sometimes to their advantage. Okay.
Now, as a teacher, that helps me in that I can relate to my students better.
Okay.
Um, so I have some students that are pretty challenging, but one thing I learned about my students is that the most challenging students are also the most talented. And um, sometimes I will see where what they're dealing with. And if I have to call them out, it's like, but I got ADHD, Miss May. Really? You know, but I'm like, no, I get it. And so when I can tell them what they struggle with, and they're like, yeah, like, yeah, I get it. So I know I tend to have better rapport because they know that I know. And then it also gives me a way to strategize my classes to where they can kind of, you know, not tune out too much. Or if I see them tuning out, I can switch things up so they don't, to
Wow.
kind of keep them
That's
engaged.
that's exactly what she just said. Some people, you're using it to your advantage
Yeah.
in that particular instance because you can empathize with what they're going through. That has to be. Man, I wonder if I would have known. If so many of us would have known. I mean, I know all of the technological and the medical advances and all the psychological advances and all these things we're steadily learning, all the time, we're getting new
Mhm.
information. But had we known, I mean, because I relate on, I was reading at 9th, 10th grade level in the 5th grade. I would cram for tests. I could pass. I told my son, we don't flunk tests. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Dr. Evans, I remember I took the insurance exam. They gave us an hour and a half to take that test. When I studied for it, I just memorized the questions. And I memorized the answers. And so when the test came up, they
Pass
gave
it
us
to
an hour and a
Philly.
half. I finished it in 20 minutes. I mean, I walked out. He said, would you like to know if you passed? I said, I don't know if I passed. Now you just text me, email me. Because I didn't know. Because like I said, I don't learn. I just memorize. I mean, at a certain point, I was just memorizing and just regurgitating. And that's it. You opened up my eyes. That's why I wanted to have this conversation. I know a lot of people probably like, that ain't no, I mean, let's talk about who cheating with who and having, and who husband cheating on somebody else. And I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about something like this because I think somebody else who might have a child right now going through the same thing. Dr. Evans, I went up to trade school when he was in the 4th grade. No, 4th or 5th grade. And I walked in the class. And his mom had always gone to all the parent-teacher conferences. So this time I wanted to go, because she's telling me. So I walk in and she's telling me, Trey talks this much, and Trey does this, and Trey does that, da 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 da, and all this, and Trey does this, and da da da, and all this. And kept on going with this whole stuff. And I said, well, hell, he don't talk it. I said, he don't even talk at home. So I'm like, so what? I said, well, let me ask you a question. I said, are you giving him enough work? She said, well, da, da, da. I said, well, don't sound. I said, but, and then another thing, another thing is, I said, sound to me like the qualities that you're describing are things that are going to make him successful in the future. I said, do you want me to put a lid on leadership?
Ooh, that's a whole other conversation.
She said, you're right. I said, he's not a bad kid. I said, he probably finishes his work a little fast. I said, but I can help you. Here's my card. Here's my phone number. Next time he acts up, threaten to call me. And I promise you'll be cool. Never had another problem out of him. And Trey has a master's degree now. He finished on the president's list. He was the treasurer for Omega Psi Phi. He's doing real estate now. All kind of things going well. And he was nowhere near any, but he probably could have been classified as that because he talked in class. If the wrong parent wouldn't have went up and advocated for him, you know what I'm saying? Or would have let him keep on or let them put a label on him. Because so many times we put those labels on our children. Let me see what Miss Mosley said. I missed her. Oh, Emmanuel said, I would say similar to a functional alcoholic. Dr. Evans seems to agree with that. Phoenicia Moses said, my son struggles with symptoms and I have had to learn how to encourage him differently than my daughter. I commend you for that because so many times you know what would make me never go back to another barber, go back to a barber again. If every person that walks out has the same haircut. I ain't going back because he's not creative. You're not cutting with the grain of my natural grain of my hair. You know what I'm saying? And same thing with children. They all have different fingerprints. They're all individual and unique. So why would we put them? Because you know what that means, Phoenicia? If I don't do that, that means I lack creativity. You know what I'm saying? I'm just going to put them in this template, in this box, and I'm going to ride with it, and we're going to do it my way, highway. One child of mine chose baseball, one chose softball, one chose cheerleading, and they all chose grades. As long don't come in my house with more than 2 B's. That's all that matters. Come with 2 B's, we got a problem. Daughters didn't never make B's. And that's just where we were. Go ahead, Doc. I'm sorry. You look like you had something you was about to say. I apologize.
Oh, no, I just think there's always a great benefit when you discover what the issues are early. Because you don't, once a child has been labeled as a behavioral problem, that can follow them throughout school, in which teachers don't really invest in them. They just want them out of their classroom. So I think that's the danger of parents not advocating and addressing the issues.
That's right. There you go. Miss Milton said children are not cookie cutter. They're not. They are not. They're not. And these are real live investments. And like Miss May said, she felt it in adulthood. She felt herself being overwhelmed, and that didn't start that didn't just come overnight. That took 25, 30 years, all of that, until she finally got diagnosed. And once you got diagnosed, did you start having? Okay, I got you, Miss Milton. You got it. You Milton, Miss Milton, and Conjure are tied at 3-3 right now. They're going to have to break the tie in a minute. Didn't nobody get the one a minute ago? I'm gonna put it up again, see if one of y'all get. Doc, I don't be wanting to cover your face up. I'm sorry, but I was trying. We got our little contest going on. It be covering up your whole face almost. I'm sorry, Doc. I apologize.
Okay, man.
Okay, good. But we know what you look like, though. Okay, it lifted you up a little bit. Okay, cool. Oh no, you can't see the. Oh, shoot. Let me take her words off. Hold on, let me take her words off. All right, there another one is. Let's see who's gonna break the tie. See who's gonna break the tie. But yeah, that's good. I really applaud you for that. So now that you wrong. Ain't no V in there. Oh yeah, there's one V, but no, that's not it. And that's not enough letters, I don't think. But I applaud you for telling us your story, Miss May, for real. I mean, so once you got diagnosed, what was the next step? Did they give you exercises? Because you're conscious now, how are you responding? All right, Miss Milton just won. All right, send me your address, Miss Milton. I will be putting you a book in the mail. Do you already have a book? Well, you can gift it to somebody else. But Miss Milton just won 4-3. She got it. So I'm gonna leave it right there. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm saying what was the next steps?
Well, we, basically tried some strategies and things to work around it. Became an issue, so I, started with some medication. So I'm tried, we just kind of tried one type of medication and it didn't work. Finally, just took some, then I ended up on, I think, Adderall or no, it was Vyvanse. Anyway, I had to take I had to take something that was strong enough to get me through the day. Because I was working. My days would start at like about 4:35 a.m. and it would go on until, depending if I was working and I was also say doing a show or something, I would probably get home around 10:30 or something like that. So it was the honestly I was that helped me out a lot personally, the meds. And it's funny because you know how they say the meds give you like an extra pep, and I'm like, yep. But for me, it just kind of quieted all the extra noise.
Okay.
So it's like someone was asking, it's like, now how do you know that you just are not really addicted to the meds? I'm like, I have to remember to take them. What are you talking about? It's like, what?
Wow.
But it's I would take them, and then there I would actually go a day or two and not take any, just because I didn't want to develop a tolerance. But just basically it was just, but it helped me to kind of at least have a little bit more of a focus. But now there's the thing, the meds can help you focus, but you still have to come up with like strategies around, to still handle your responsibilities, because otherwise you'll be focusing, but then you'll just be focusing into space. But those were my next steps. Talk to my parents. Like I said, I was relieved. I had to mourn the years that I lost.
Oh wow.
Wow. Because, thinking of how much further I could have gone had I known that I had this struggle.
Jesus.
So that I was, I had to go through that, stage, through the resentment of people that basically told me, oh, well, you're just lazy, or you're this or that and the other. I had to let that go because, of course, I knew they didn't know. So I mean, just kind of had to go through a couple of processes, but
that was heavy right there. Yeah, and that's the purpose of the show. Unhappy triggers, childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Because now here's a shocking revelation. And had I gotten diagnosed at 18, had I gotten diagnosed at 10, had I got diagnosed, if someone would have recognized, I couldn't be that bad.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how am I in the 5th grade reading on a 10th grade level but I'm just irresponsible and I'm not doing my homework. Maybe I used to be an advocate for the Montessori program. You know what I'm saying? Kind of work at your own pace type thing. Because I just think, some people thrive in certain situations, but but they, like somebody said earlier, cookie cutter, man. They want to put us in a classroom and tell us to thrive or to survive. So they tell us to thrive when some of us are just barely surviving. And what it looks like. But in the text, that man saw something was wrong with his son, saw his son had a dumb spirit, saw what the spirit had done to him, and said, you know what? There's two separate entities right there. There's my son and there's that spirit. And I'm going to protect my son from that spirit if I got to get him to Jesus so that Jesus can change that situation for him. That was the hallelujah part of that whole text. He said, Lord, I believe. I do. I promise I believe. But my son, I see the evidence. And the evidence says that every time he gets by some fire, he tries to burn himself up. When he gets around water, he tries to drown himself. When he gets in the presence of disciples, he throws himself on the ground and starts weeping and gnashing. In other words, you know what he's doing, Dr. Evans?
What's that?
Showing out, acting out, crying for help. But the funny part about it is that sometimes help try to tell help how to be help. When help is available, right? But at 40 years old, Miss May had the courage, and that's why Alicia Milton said, congratulations if you didn't see it, Miss May. But she said you had the courage at the age of 40 to go and get tested and to figure it out. I got 5 screens up right now. You know what I'm saying? But I haven't gotten tested. I'm in therapy, don't get me wrong, but I haven't gotten tested. You know what I'm saying? And probably it might not. I manage my screens at this particular point in life. But it's interesting. Doc, so somebody that might have that childhood trigger that went through the life with an undiagnosed ADD or ADHD, or found them or have had trouble coping over the years, what exercises, what would you encourage them to do to start turning that corner? Or like Miss May said, she said something so powerful a minute ago, I almost cried. She said, what can they do to turn the noise down so you can focus now?
I think probably the most important thing is to live in the present.
Okay.
You can always look back and those regrets will be there. Sometimes anger directed at parents who weren't attuned to what was going on, or could have been busy living their own lives or dealing with their own personal struggles. And I can tell you that from being in a large family, you can sometimes feel overlooked and neglected in that way. But I think there has to be a point in time in which you stop looking behind and you look forward. Because if you have opportunities, those opportunities are still there. But as long as you're living in the past, it's hard to take advantage and utilize the present. And also probably in embracing what you've gone through, what you've experienced, and realizing at the end that you are a stronger person because of it. Ms. May can't say that she is weaker. She can't say, you can talk about those years that were lost, but you also have to look at what was gained. And there is a value to everything that God allows us to go through. Wow. And sometimes we don't always see that. So sometimes we have to refocus and say that, my life is not over. There's been some successes. Now, how can I utilize that even more? Then learning how to relax, learning how to breathe, giving grace to yourself. Those common things now, and then when we talk about, in the true sense of triggers, the trauma that's associated with them, not reliving the past. Because again, some people cannot move forward because they continue to play this video in their heads about what has happened to them, and life is still moving. So being able to look after yourself, being able to do what's best for yourself, even though it was missed in those earlier years, um, of being able to, to basically say like my latter years will be my best years,
Mm.
and living by that philosophy instead of saying my best years are behind me. And so many times we have that mindset. And if we talk about triggers, anything that makes you relive the past, um, understanding what those triggers are, learning how to manage those triggers, and I think that's a big key to successful living after trauma, after neglect. Um, and man, you could just go on and on and on about the things that that we can do. Talk therapy is always good, you know, and people may doubt the power of you talking about your past issue, working through them now. There's a benefit to that I think the world still misses. And I often tell people that you don't give counselors don't give or therapists don't give the individual advice. We assist them in coming up with what works for them in their lives.
Yeah.
So I always believe that that person has the answer somewhere within them. So it's helping them come to terms with it and then accepting and embracing it.
Well, you said something about a minute ago about not replaying that video. Um, and when I look back at that Mark 9 text that I taught earlier tonight, when Jesus cast the spirit out of him, he said, "Thou deaf and dumb spirit, come out of him," right? But then he said, "And enter him no more."
Mm. Yes.
And so that meant take the VCR tape out, take the DVD tape out, unplug it. You know what I'm saying? Throw it in the trash, whatever you need to do, because that ain't gonna rise up against you.
Yeah. And I think Miss May is a living testimony
Yes, sir.
using something in her past that was painful to help those who may be dealing with the same thing now.
Yeah.
Um, I really believe that that's the purpose of pain. That's the purpose of difficulties, to make us stronger. But then we use that same thing to be strength for someone else. So I commend you to every student that you've seen the symptoms or the signs and you've had a chance to form a relationship with them. Um, that is a very commendable thing.
And I want to furthermore say on what he said. Thank you for broadening the scope
Mm.
of what childhood trauma looks like, because I think some of us, whether we do it inadvertently or subconsciously, I think we limit the scope because we think that trauma should be abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, things of that nature, and not thinking that, as you described it, it's like being in a jail cell almost, trying to figure out how to get. I mean, I'm not sure what the exact words you said were, but that's got to be traumatic, and I feel you on that. So, thank you very much. Do you have any closing words? Because we're about to shut this thing down. Because I'm sleeping now, but I'm probably gonna go fry me some chicken before I go to bed. I'm gonna do it in the air fryer though, so I won't do it. I'm gonna do it in the air fryer. I'm joking. No, I'm not eating. I'm hungry. But you have any closing words, Miss May? For real, thank you for coming on. What do you have any closing words?
Uh,
The
well,
advice.
just let's see. Well, thank you for having me on here. And as far as advice, one thing I thought of, or the spirit just basically kind of revealed to me, not too long ago, was maturity is seeing the darkest parts of your life and realizing how that were also the best parts of your life.
Wow. Yeah, that's
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
That's good. Seeing the darkest parts of your life and realizing that they were also part of the best parts of your life. Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, somebody need to tweet that, tweet
Mhm.
it, put it on Facebook, all that kind of stuff, and make it work. I appreciate you for coming on, ma'am. I'm gonna go ahead and let you go now. I know you got to teach school tomorrow, but that's all good. I was in Pine Bluff Monday. I was down there eating at my grandmother's restaurant.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, Grider Field. That's my
Oh
grandmother's.
yeah. Oh yeah. That's a legendary restaurant over there.
My mom used to work the cash register there before she passed away. Yeah.
Oh.
Yep, yep, yep. All right, I'm gonna let you go, man. I'm gonna holler at Doc 1 second, then we out. Okay. Thank you,
All
Miss.
right. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. All right, Doc. What you think?
A very, very important topic, and there are so many things that leave a mark in us that appears negative at first, but it all depends on how we utilize it. So I think Ms. May is a prime example of someone who did not let life pass her by, but she was able to look at her own life and do something about it as an adult.
Isn't that something?
Yes,
But
yes,
that's the thing for me, Doc. Is and I mean, because I've been going through some things here, like I told you recently. But once you become aware of something, at that point, especially as an adult,
right.
I think at that point you have a responsibility to do something about it.
Well. Think about it like this: if other people in your life have let you down, then when you will you continue to let yourself down?
Yeah.
Or will you do what is best for yourself? Will you nurture yourself? Will you love yourself? Um, you know, all those things. If we can stop people from looking backwards and seeing the people who hurt them,
Hmm.
and perhaps look forward into the life that they can now live. Um, I always say some of the most painful things in my life. If I change those things, then I am a different person.
Yeah.
So God used them as part of the molding process.
And people move to new cities every day.
Oh yes,
Ain't nothing wrong with changing. You know what
yes,
I mean? I mean,
yes.
you got the power to change circles, you got the power to do whatever's necessary. But I just think at this point in life, and that's where and I always talk about on the path to better. But every day I'm trying to become a better version of myself. You know,
Always,
you know.
always, and thank God that you can have people in your circle
Yeah.
who are there to encourage and cheer you on as you become a better person, and we'll hold you accountable.
Yeah, and I'm at the point now where I'm gonna kick people out of my circle that's not gonna encourage me or that's not gonna. I'm doing something here.
They're not doing you any good.
No good. Oh, Conjua, Miss Milton says she already bought the book, so she said she's gonna gift the book to you. So you need to inbox me your address so I can send you the book. She won the book, y'all. We had a contest earlier tonight where we had a word scramble, uh, word words related to family, and actually Alicia Milton won 4-3, but she has gifted the book. She says she's in the giving back season of her life right now, so she's gifting that book to Conjua there in Mississippi. So I will be sending. I need to go send out books tomorrow anyway. But this has been a good topic. We're still going to continue to deal with different aspects of mental health. We have our resident therapist, Miss Phoenicia Mosley, and Mr. Ray Evans. They always come on and share insight, and I appreciate them for doing that. And we had Lalita May on tonight. I asked a question a couple of weeks ago on my show asking people to share their childhood traumas, and she shared hers. She said she was reading in a 10th grade reading level by the time she was in the 5th grade. But she made bad grades, couldn't remember to do her homework, things of that nature. Sometimes you would consider that just to be a bad child. Nah, sometimes there's some mental things going on. You can't just throw everybody in a category and put them in and think that that's just the end of the story. Everybody ain't bad. Some people don't have the skills to cope, and they need help. Their brain needs help making a good decision. So that's what we're talking about. That's what we talked about tonight. So that was her childhood trauma, and that was a trigger for her. She was 40 years old before she went and got diagnosed. And you know what she said? She said she felt like she lost a lot of years. And Dr. Evans had to remind her that she hadn't lost anything because she survived. And that's a good thing. So grandchildren, your children, your relation, all those things. Once you become aware, make some changes.
Right.
It's okay. I got my therapist. She said, what you want to talk about there? I said, I don't know what you want to talk about. She said, it's your life. You paying for it. I say, I ain't really got nothing to talk about. And we'll just start talking. And next thing you know, we have a whole conversation. She'll teach me something I ain't know something about. Go ahead, Doc.
And that's just the way it is. I mean, just listen, a person having an avenue to just talk, that's like I said, that's an unbelievable value that still a lot of people have not come to the knowledge of.
Well, I appreciate you for not sending me any invoices so far, because I'm sure I've probably gotten some free sessions from you over the years when me and you talk. So I appreciate you for not sending me invoices so
we
far.
we glean from one another.
Yeah, well, you trained, I'm not. You trained. You got your degree on the wall from the Mississippi State University.
Mm.
I got a degree, but it's not in counseling, so it's all good. I appreciate you. I'm not gonna belabor the time any longer. It's been cool. It's been cool. It's been fun. I was a little tired when we got started out because, like I said, it's been a long day. And we were on an off night tonight, so we'll get back on schedule next week. We'll find something else to discuss related to mental health. This is Mental Health Month. Oh, you all, my birthday is on this Saturday. I'll be 52 years old. So I'm excited about that. I'm probably going to do nothing like I always do. And somebody, you know what's so bad about it, Dr. Evans? Somebody told me that, no, you're not. You're going to be in Stony River, because I've been in Stony River like the last 5 birthdays. It's a restaurant. I sit at the bar at Stony River, have me a ribeye steak, and get me a Coca-Cola, eat, and go home. I've been doing that for the last 5 years. So this year when I said I wasn't doing nothing, they said, no, you are. You're gonna be at Stony River. I said, golly, I ain't going to Stony River now. I promise you that. I'm not going. Just because she said I was gonna go to Stony River, I'm not going to Stony River. I'm not. I'm gonna find somewhere else to go. I'm good. You'll send me. No, you better not send me no matching pajamas. I don't have matching pajamas. Who? I don't have no woman. I'm single. She don't want me. I'm single. I ain't got nobody. I'm good. I'm single. One of these days I might be I'm ready though. When the time comes, I'm ready. I'm gonna do it again. I'm ready. I have determined I'm not good at being single. I'm trying to do something about that. I'm not good at that. But it's all good. Doc, will you do me a favor? I'm gonna do something a little bit I don't even know what that means. Oh, happy birthday. Oh, yeah, early. Okay, cool. Happy birthday. Is that right? Yeah. I'll be 52. Y'all gonna call me and sing happy birthday to me on the day. Doc, pray us out right quick. I want us to pray tonight. Pray for the unhappy triggers. Pray for the childhood trauma that has affected people in their adult life, and also pray for awareness to come, for those that might have swept it on the rug, might not have been revealed yet, and to understand the importance of mental health. Go ahead. I'm sorry. That's it.
All right, let us pray. Father God, we come, Lord, once again just to say thank you. We thank you, Lord, because we believe that you are our healer, and healer of not just the body, but the mind and the soul, Lord. So we just say thank you. We ask now, Lord, that you bless those who are living with and dealing with childhood trauma, those who live with triggers that cause them to relive a negative situation over and over again in their lives. You came, Lord, that we might have freedom, Lord, that we might have liberty. And Lord, not just from sin, Lord, but from the negativity, Lord, of some of our life's experiences. So, Lord, we ask that you heal us, Lord, that you make us whole, Lord, and that you allow us to look to you, the author and the finisher of our faith, that you allow us to look unto the hills from whence cometh all of our help. You promised, Lord, that you would never leave us nor forsake us. So we know that you are with us, Lord. When those who have hurt us are no longer around, Lord, we ask that you grant us, Lord, the power to love ourselves, Lord, the power to do what's best for us, Lord, being led by your Spirit. And Lord, we'll be careful to give your name all the glory, honor, and praise, because we believe that whom the Son set free is free indeed. And we claim it right now in your name, Lord, free from hurt, free from pain, free from trauma. And Father God, we understand that it's a process, Lord, but we already see our healing on the other side, Lord. And I'm not talking about when we depart this life, but when we have processed, when we have accepted what we have experienced, Lord, understanding that it would be to our betterment. And that's because can't no one turn the situation around but you and like you. So we just said thank you now, Lord. We ask that you bless James, Lord, with this ministry. Continue to bless Miss May, Lord, and her journey. And Lord, we all stand in the need of a blessing. Despite that, Lord, we just want to say thank you for all things. We pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. All right, Doc, I appreciate you. Listen, y'all share this video of this story. We're gonna probably consider continue Monday night with some more childhood trick or unhappy triggers. We got triggers that's a good subject. We need to deal with some more triggers. We need to deal with Phoenicia and Miss Milton. Miss Milton, I gotta get you on here. But we gotta deal with some more of these triggers things, man. I want to turn these Uzis into cap guns because right now they got too much power. So we got to figure out how to put some safeties on these triggers so they don't have so much power when they shoot. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. All right. So it's been real. Y'all have on Saturday. It's a national holiday. It's my birthday, so y'all make sure y'all have fun. Enjoy yourself. Do it just like y'all do. What's the other thing they do? Cinco de Mayo, all these other holidays, all that stuff. Y'all just go out and enjoy yourself and have a good day and do it for me too, okay? All right. So it's been fun. It's been real, but we're about to get out of here. And as I always say, I'm trying to get my music off. As I always say, but my question for you is, why do you remain the same? Y'all have a good night. Conjure, send me the address so I can get you that book in the mail. Phoenicia, thank you. Alicia, thank you. Jackie, thank you. Y'all have a good night. We'll catch y'all on the rebound.
Intellectuals too.